My name is Bill Harned, and I'm here today to talk to you about some rhythmic notations from Haiti and Puerto Rico that are used in some stylized compositions of the Haitian meringue. This was part of my dissertation research, and I was able to formulate different music theories about the execution of these different rhythms. So I'm able to present my dissertation research to you today and present my own theories about how these rhythms work. This is very important information because if you look up the cantillet rhythm or the elastic tresillo rhythms, you won't find much music theory or performance practice information about these rhythms. You'll find some ethnographical information to discuss these rhythms from a natural setting, from a natural dance setting within the culture. But for these stylized compositions, these composers who received their music education from the Paris Conservatory created their own rhythmic notations. So today I'll be talking to you about how these rhythmic notations create misalignments to preserve cross rhythms. So I was able to visit the SRDMH archive in Montreal. The SRDMH, they are converting old manuscripts of Haitian music to digital format. So I was able to do this research because of the digital editions that were provided to me by the SRDMH archive. So these editions that I used were just published in the last 10 years, but the music themselves go back to the first composers of piano music in Haiti that go back to 1880. So these editions, in the past 10 years, have been able to expose this old music from Haiti so that we can access it. And I was able to do my research to analyze these rhythmic notations. But I would to ask that the music theory about these rhythmic notations could use more information, more second opinions. So I would ask other people to put forth their own opinions and theories about these rhythmic notations. So today I'm going to be presenting my information, my theories that I constructed from my dissertation research. So for today, as an outline for today's presentation, first I would like to discuss these rhythms auditorily without notations so that you can grasp these rhythms without notation. Then I'll discuss the rhythmic notations themselves. The next section will discuss speech and body rhythms to help explain the execution of these rhythms. Then I'll talk about cross rhythms. So you have interaction between duple and triple meters. Then we'll look at examples from repertoire to see these rhythmic notations in repertoire, and then the conclusion. So if we're looking at these rhythms from an auditory perspective, just to do a basic adjustment of Western music or any music, is that you usually have a pulse and you divide that pulse into duple meters or triple meters. So if we have a pulse going, we can split that up into duples. Or we can do 4, we can divide into 4. So we can also do a triple meter to divide into even triplets. Or we can, in African music and Caribbean music, they use the tercio rhythm, which is slightly different, has a rhythm of long, long, short. So we can also take this rhythm and add 2 secondary notes in between each beat of the tercio rhythm. So if we add two notes in between each note of the tercio rhythm, we have the 5-beat syncopated rhythm, which is the main rhythm that we'll be dealing with today. So we can also slow the tempo and have more control. We can fluctuate the rhythm a little bit in slower tempos. So this is a triple-based rhythm. A lot of times in African and Caribbean music, they'll mix triple and duple. So we could add a duple rhythm against it to get an effect of 3 against 2. So that's the 5-beat syncopated rhythm, and playing that against a duple rhythm. So now we'll go on to the notations used for the 5-beat syncopated rhythm. So you commonly have the cinquillo rhythm, and then Haiti has the cantilé rhythm, and then Puerto Rico has its version called the elastic tercio rhythm. The cinquillo rhythm is the commonly used form of the 5-beat syncopated rhythm and has a sharp syncopation. The cantilé and the elastic tercio rhythm both represent a relaxed syncopation of the 5-beat syncopated rhythm. The cantilé rhythm appears as an even quintuplet, but actually has the tercio rhythm embedded within it. So the tercio rhythm is in beats 1, 3, and 5. Traditionally, this rhythm is only used for compositions of the meringue in Haiti. Sometimes Haitian composers will use a 5/8 meter to it's a metric representation of the cantilé rhythm. So it's the same rhythm as the cantilé in a metric version as 5/8. So in this sense, the tercio rhythm is in beats 1, 3, and 5. A performance practice note would be that the 5th note must be played slightly longer than the first 4. So this rhythm is a national marker of identity for Haitians. So this rhythm is only used in Haiti. The rhythm was invented by Auxide and Auxilius Jonti, those father and son. They both were conductors and chief composers for the National Palace Band, and Auxide received the job after his father in 1892, and they both composed meringues for both piano and wind ensemble. The elastic tercio rhythm is the same rhythm as the cantilé rhythm, that is a relaxed syncopation of the 5-beat syncopated rhythm. With the elastic tercio rhythm, the middle note has a tied note with two triplets. This note should be played shorter so that effectively the first four notes are played almost equally, but with fluctuation. Manuel says that the elastic label allows for a fluctuation in its execution. And in Puerto Rico, this rhythm was first used in salon compositions of the danza. Sometimes the elastic tercio has a modification, sometimes the fourth beat is missing, and for the final note uses an eighth note. So this eighth note for the final note is actually a more accurate transcription of the final note. As you will see in this example from Lamotte, the first measure has an elastic tercio in the left hand. Then in the third measure and the fifth measure, we have the elastic tercio with four notes. And if you'll see that the final note is an eighth note. With these rhythms of the 5-beat syncopated rhythm, they all have the tercio rhythm embedded within them. And if you'll see in the figure that if we can derive the tercio rhythm from each notation, the secchio, the cantillet, and elastic tercio, we'll see that we have different ratios of the tercio rhythm. So that the cinquillo rhythm produces a tercio rhythm of 3-3-2. So the rhythm of 3-3-2, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2, 1-2-3, 1-2. So this is a more what I call a quantitative rhythm, commonly used that the rhythm is meant to be counted directly, whereas the cantillet and the elastic tercio rhythms do not have a literal representation and are meant to be fluctuated. So I was able to find a few examples of a 2-2-1 tercio rhythm, but I was not able to find any examples of the 2-3-1 tercio from elastic tercio. Just some background information about the tercio rhythm. This is the triple meter of African and Caribbean music. It naturally occurs in language, in African language, so that the rhythms from the language directly go into the music. But also this rhythm naturally occurs in cultures around the world. Manuel says that this rhythm represents an ongoing cosmopolitan process of interethnic musical syncretism. So when creolization occurs, when you combine different cultures, when African music was combined with other types of music, that process of creolization produces a more cosmopolitan style. So this tercio rhythm is able to be combined with European styles, with the creolization of music in the Caribbean and the North America, South America. Another way that we could look at these rhythms is as what I call the syncopation factor. The cinquillo rhythm indicates a sharp syncopation with a 2-to-1 syncopation factor. If you look at the first two notes, we have an 8th note and a 16th note. So the ratio of the two notes is 2-to-1, and this creates a sharp syncopation. The smaller note value requires preciseness to place the note. So in this sharp syncopation, the short note does not have room to fluctuate, whereas the elastic tercio and the cantillet rhythms have a 1-to-1 syncopation factor. So in this sense, we have a relaxed syncopation in the rhythms, and literally we have an equal division, but we also have an equal division, but with fluctuation. So there's room to fluctuate, but in this 1-to-1 syncopation factor, the second note is the secondary note, the subordinate note. So that note has a larger value, and that gives it room to fluctuate. So as a correlation to try to explain this idea of the syncopation factor and the reduced rhythm, if we look at a duple rhythm called the swing rhythm. Swing rhythm is common to jazz music. If we look at the swing rhythm, we'll see that swing rhythm can be notated as a 1-to-1 syncopation factor, 2-to-1, or 3-to-1. And the 1-to-1 syncopation factor is commonly used, and this is the reduced rhythm. So it looks like even eighth notes, but like the cantillet rhythm has a different rhythm embedded within it. So with the 1-to-1 syncopation factor, you can fluctuate. You can play it evenly. You can play it as a relaxed syncopation, which would be a relax, or you can play it sharply. On the other hand, with the 3-to-1 syncopation factor, you have a very short note, a 16th note for the secondary note. Excuse me. So this short note denies fluctuation. And just an interesting thing is that when you have fast tempos, the swing naturally sharpens. Whereas if you do slower tempos, you can fluctuate more. You can do either sharp or relaxed syncopation with a swing rhythm. So this correlates with the sharp and relaxed syncopation of the 5-beat syncopated rhythm to show you the difference between the sharp notation and the relaxed notation. So reasons for this non-literal rhythm of the cantillet and last tercio rhythm is that the reduced rhythm allows fluctuation, and the vagueness of the transcription allows fluctuation. So another concept to account for the fluctuation is the fix concept that was used by Michael Spiro to describe the Brazilian samba. So fix is a combination of 4 and 6. So playing between 4 and 6 produces fix. He noticed that the division of the beat wavered in the Brazilian samba between binary and ternary meters. So I believe this is why Afrocentric rhythms are difficult to transcribe, because of this fluctuation. And also this justifies the 5-beat syncopated rhythm, because the average of 4 and 6 is 5. Another concept to describe these, the execution, or to help describe the execution of these rhythms, is the concept of speech and body rhythms. Speech and body rhythms comes from Kofi Agawu's The African Imagination and Music. So he uses this to classify rhythms. So a speech rhythm would relate to a melody that can fluctuate and express freely like the voice expresses. But on the other hand, a body rhythm has a steady pulse as a supporting rhythm. And this is common through dance music, because dance music facilitates movement of the body, and a steady pulse facilitates dancing, whereas a speech rhythm allows a single melody to express and fluctuate. So some more information about the speech rhythms. In this sense, one can see that an instrumental melody would or could try to emulate the voice. In that sense, gives a performance practice for phrasing, but also just the idea that the melody should freely express. So this idea of fluctuation also relates to rubato treatment. So you could see this speech rhythm aspect applying to rubato treatment in different musical pieces. As a Western style that has the speech rhythms, because speech comes from language, but in an operatic recitative, the lyrics, the words themselves, dictate the rhythms of the melody that the singer is singing, so that it's the rhythm of the words as they're pronounced that dictates the musical rhythm. Just some information about the speech rhythms from scholars. Jessica Adams says that the Haitian Creole language is like a more melodic form of French. So in the sense that French would sound like someone singing French. So the Claude Dauphin says that younger languages such as Haitian Creole, but also Greek, Arabic, and Chinese have a larger pitch range to express emotions. So the younger language still uses or is closer to singing than more developed languages, which have a larger vocabulary and perhaps require preciseness to clarify or to differentiate different words. Perhaps the pitch range was deleted, so that these younger languages in their younger development would be more closer to singing. So in that sense, just the language themselves would be closer to music. Then Jean-Jacques Rousseau says that the passions spoke before reason, poetry came before prose. So that instead of as these languages developed, the emotions were needed to be communicated more so than ideas. He also says that verse, song, and speech comes from the passions. Now going to body rhythms. Body rhythms occur in all cultures because of dance music. To me, the body rhythm establishes an order at a constant frequency, so it establishes a frequency that stays steady to produce the pulse. This creation of body rhythms is created through dividing the pulse, but Western and African music, they contrast with each other, because Western music commonly divides the pulse evenly, as with the duple and triple meters. But the African body rhythms are created by repeating a linguistic phrase. So this would give freedom for the body rhythm to adjust and not be rigid, as a rigid division or even division as in Western music. So an example of this would be the Bambolo dance. This is an African dance. If you'll see in the figure, the top line has the bass drum speaking the word bambula in the tercio rhythm. So we have bambula, bambula. So the bass drum would be repeating this, and there's a crossover with African music because drums have the ability to speak language and emulate language. So the execution of this rhythm is based on language and not so much an even division. So just taking this concept of speech and body rhythms, you can, I wanted to apply this to describe different musical textures. If you have a speech rhythm solo, just a soloist melody, this could be a cappella singing or just a single instrumentalist playing, but that would be a single speech rhythm. But if you combine a speech rhythm solo with a leading body rhythm support, you have a soloist who is playing against the texture, and this can create cross rhythms. If the body rhythm support does not fluctuate, is not affected by the soloist, this would have a steady pulse. So some examples of this would be a jazz ensemble with a percussionist leading the pulse or directing the pulse. Also an Afrocentric drum ensemble, like we saw in the last slide with the bambula, to have one drum ensemble to direct the pulse, and then to have soloists play against it. And then you also have dance music to produce music with a steady pulse for facilitating dancing. Now, if you also take the speech rhythm and the body rhythm support, and if you allow the speech rhythm soloist to lead, you have freedom with the soloist. So the soloist is able to fluctuate and freely have rubato treatment, and could be accompanied. So in this sense, examples of this would be an accompanied singer. So the singer has the lead and the support accompanies that rather than directs. Then another example would be Romantic period salon piano music with the cantabile style. So with this, the instrument will emulate the voice to freely express and to fluctuate. Now, this is my questioning texture of this Haitian music or Caribbean music with Afrocentric rhythms combined with European styles is the idea of independent speech rhythm and speech rhythm support. So the support itself would be able to fluctuate, but they would be coordinated by the pulse of the measure. So the pulse of the measure would be the only point of coordination, and to allow both solo and support to freely fluctuate. So this is my questioning texture for this music, because the supporting rhythms seem to have a lot of room to fluctuate. So this is just a conjecture for me that I put forth to try to explain the texture of this Caribbean music. So we can also use the speech and body rhythms to explain the two types of Haitian meringues for the piano. We have the carnival meringue and the salon meringue. The carnival meringue relates to body rhythms because this will be used for dancing. So this has a steady body rhythm in a generally faster tempo. The Haitian salon meringue it's a combination of the European salon style of, say, from the Romantic period, that type of music, but you're combining them with Afrocentric rhythms. So these Haitian salon meringues were first composed in the 1890s. There's some information about the Haitian composers. The Haitians are descendants from West Africa and Benin. Many of the or after Haiti received its independence from France, musicians were sent to Paris Conservatory to receive their music education, to learn composition. The Haitian meringue is the national dance for Haiti and is a creolization of the French gavotte and African rhythms. And also the tempo of the meringue is slightly slower than the gavotte. So this slower tempo, excuse me, slower tempo actually advocates for more fluctuation. So now I'd like to compare music meters and textures in Western and African music. Western music will evenly divide the pulse and favors synchronization of parts, so that when we divide the pulse, and say if it's a 4/4 or 3/4, usually each division will synchronize, each part will synchronize by those divisions. African music, on the other hand, will mix duple and triple meters independently. So this causes a rhythmic tension and produces cross rhythms where you have slight misalignments between parts because each part is keeping its part independent from the other parts. So as a way to explain this difference, if we look at the different ways that 2 versus 3 is done, in the Western way, 2 versus 3 is called a hemiola. It's not actually a true cross rhythm because with even division, 2 versus 3 will synchronize by a division of 6. So if we divide the pulse into 6, we have synchronization. So here you'll see if we have 2 versus 3, we can actually evenly play this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's an even division. With the African and Caribbean rhythmic textures, they not only mix 2 and 3 together, they also alternate 2 and 3. With the combined 2 and 3, the most commonly codified rhythm is the habanera rhythm. So the habanera rhythm is common to Caribbean music and Latino music. This rhythm actually can be divided into the tercia rhythm and a duple rhythm. So the habanera rhythm takes the tercia rhythm and then adds a duple rhythm to it. So in that sense, the habanera rhythm can support both triple and duple rhythms using the tercia rhythm for the triple division. So we can also alternate 2 and 3. In Caribbean music, it's quite common to have the 2-measure scale. So here, for the example, it's a 3/2 clave 2-measure scale. So we have a constant alternation of duple and triple, or in this sense, triple and duple. Now, going back to the 5-beat syncopated rhythm, if you look at the first figure there, we have the tercia rhythm, and we add the 2 secondary notes to the tercia rhythm to form the 5-beat syncopated rhythm. And just to review the sharp syncopation and the relaxed syncopation, so the cinquillo rhythm is a counted rhythm or quantitative rhythm and does not allow fluctuation of the 2nd and 4th beats. So with the 5-beat syncopated rhythm with relaxed syncopation, it's a non-literal rhythm and has freedom in the 2nd and 4th notes. Now, if we analyze these rhythms and how they interact with duple rhythms, excuse me. So in this example, I've taken the Senkio rhythm and placed it against duple rhythms. If you'll see in the second figure that the second note of the Senkio synchronizes with the 8th note. And then if you divide into 16th notes, the 2nd and 4th notes synchronize with the duple meter. Now if we take a look at the cantilé and elastic tresillo rhythms, and if we place those against duple rhythms, we'll see that we have a misalignment between duple and triple. So the first example, I've placed the cantilé against 4/8 notes, but we have misalignment with the 2nd and 4th notes. So this allows cross rhythms. So I'll demonstrate here. Whereas if we go back to the Senkio rhythm, we have synchronization. Now, if you look at the cantilé and elastic tresillo rhythms, the final note is slightly longer, so it's questionable whether or not that last note should synchronize or not. Now, if we take a look at the cantilé and elastic tresillo rhythms and we place them against other tresillo rhythms, to me, seems like these rhythms should synchronize because they have the tresillo rhythm in common. But then I also see that we also may want to keep these rhythms independent to allow them to misalign. So I believe that these should favor to synchronize since they have the tresillo rhythm in common. With the first beat, I believe that the first beat should always align since this represents the major pulse of the measure, and also duple and triple meters will share the first beat of the measure. So I believe that the first beat should always synchronize. Now, a reason that you may want to say that you'd want to misalign these, the 3rd and the 5th notes, perhaps you want to keep the rhythms independent, or the synchronizations, if you did synchronize these notes, it would be considered to be coincidental or a facilitation. So just looking at the other side of the argument, just reasons for misaligning would be to keep the rhythms independent, and if you do synchronize, that would be considered coincidental or a facilitation. Now if we look at the alignments of these with the 16th notes, the 3-3-2 tresillo rhythm, I've circled on these figures here. So the tresillo rhythm is located in the circled notes that I've circled. So it's questionable whether or not these notes should align because we have triple against duple. So in that sense, it seems that when you have triple against duple, that you would favor to misalign, and that if you did synchronize those, just as I said with the last slide, that would be considered coincidental or a facilitation. But on the other side, you could say to synchronize these notes because of the 3-3-2 tresillo, which is used in the habanera and the Senkio. So I see it either way, but I kind of favor to, as a practical suggestion, I would prefer to misalign triple against duple, and that to say that the third and fifth notes can misalign, but to synchronize according to taste depends on the actual passage that is used in music, whether or not to synchronize or misalign, to try them both out and to see which one sounds better. So as an example for a 2-2-1 tresillo, this example questions whether or not the tresillo rhythm can fluctuate, but it seems that the commonly used 3-3-2 tresillo denies fluctuation, whereas in this example here, the 2-2-1 tresillo will actually allow fluctuation. So here in this example by Gentil from Le Masque, he uses the 2-2-1 tresillo, and if you'll see that the second and third beats misalign, whereas if I converted this passage to a 3-3-2 tresillo in the bottom, and if you'll see that this has an alignment. So to show you the different ways on the piano, so we can actually either synchronize or to misalign those notes. So I believe that Gentil wanted to misalign those notes. So, but you also could play it as synchronized as a 3-3-2, but you would lose the cross rhythms. So you could, another way to do it would be to mix and match. So perhaps we could try crossing the second note, but synchronizing the third note. So I believe that Gentil, using the 2-2-1 tresillo against a duple rhythm, allows cross rhythms with the misalignments. And just to give you the whole phrase for context, now, we also have another example from Gentil. We have Un Baiser Interrompu. In this piece, the main melody, the main theme, excuse me, the main theme has a dotted quarter with an eighth note following it. So I have to question whether or not this is a duple or a triple rhythm. So in one sense, you could see it as a tresillo rhythm, but on the other hand, you could see it as a duple rhythm, the way that I've showed the two different ways of tying together these notes. So if this is a tresillo rhythm, then we would favor to synchronize with the 5-beat syncopated rhythm. Whereas if this is a duple rhythm, then we would favor to misalign. So I actually believe that this is a tresillo rhythm because the way that this piece is constructed is that he uses the 3-2 two-measure cell. So if you see, I've labeled the measures triple, duple, triple, duple, triple. So we have alternating triple and duple. So I would believe that this would be the right hand rhythm would be a tresillo rhythm. So in that case would favor to synchronize. And in this entire piece, he only mixes duple, and triple only at the closing phrases of the entire piece. So just so you can hear that, synchronized and misaligned. First to synchronize it. And then to misalign. Now, for my dissertation, I constructed my own conversion method to try to facilitate how to play these rhythms against other rhythms. So, since we looked at the 5-beat syncopated rhythm as it synchronizes with the 3-3-2 tercio, so for my method, I'm assuming that the 3-3-2 tercio will synchronize with a 5-beat syncopated rhythm, but you can still misalign the third and the fifth notes according to taste. So my method is to, step one is to convert the relaxed 5-beat syncopated rhythms to synkio rhythms. Then the second step is to coordinate common tercio rhythms, and the last step is to return the relaxed syncopation to the second and fourth notes, or to relax the syncopation of those notes. Just as a generic example of the conversion method, step one, we convert to synkio rhythms. Step two, we coordinate the tercio rhythms. And the third step, we take those second and fourth notes and we place them slightly earlier to relax the syncopation of those notes. So as an example for this, I have a meringue populaire by Justin Ellie. So if we see in the measure, if we take these two measures and we apply the method to those, we change to synkio rhythms. We then coordinate the tercio rhythms. I've circled the common tercio rhythms, and to then relax the second and fourth notes. So it's just so you can hear that, and then to hear the entire passage in context. So we can either synchronize those final notes or cross them. So that was synchronizing. Now I'll try it again and misalign the final notes when you have triple versus duple. So in this example, it was just a couple of the fifth notes were when we have triple, we have cantillet against eighth notes that we can misalign that final note or synchronize it. Just some information about Justin Ellie. Justin Ellie moved to France when he was 12 and received his music education, and then spent a lot of his time in New York, where he did have his own radio show called The Lure of the Tropics. And he had a very called a Pan-American style, so he was able to combine different styles, African, French, Hispanic. but he also tried to revive the music of the native Arawaks in Haiti. So to do this, he found Native American music from Venezuela and was able to use that music to replace the music of the native Haitians. He was actually more familiar with voodoo style than meringue style, so his 6 meringue populaires uses popular tunes, and he's actually able to incorporate voodoo rhythms also with the meringues. So looking at this is another excerpt from Justin Ellie, Meringue Populaire number 4 in C minor. So just looking at this passage, we have a similar interaction of duple versus 5-beat syncopated rhythm. So now we apply the conversion method. So it converts in keel, and I've circled the common tercio rhythms, and then to relax the syncopation of the 2nd and 4th notes. So we have questionable alignments of that final note again when we have triple versus duple. So I'll play those 2 different ways. So the first way will be to synchronize the 5th note. Second way to misalign those final notes. Now to have an interaction of the quintillet rhythm with 16th notes, I have an example from Jean T. from La Masque from measure 52. So we have 16th notes against the quintillet rhythm. So with that, so in this case, not only does the final note synchronize with the other rhythm, the 3rd note also synchronizes with option to misalign. So not only do we have that final note with questionable synchronization or crossing, we also could do that with the 3rd note. Misaligning, do that again with the misaligning. So a different other way would be to synchronize those 3rd and 5th notes. So now I'll give you the whole phrase with context. So with that passage, again, we have the 3rd and the 5th notes with the questionable synchronization or misalignment. So I'm calling it to say that you can do either one according to taste. So to do misalignment, or you could even mix them up to cross the 3rd note and to synchronize the 5th note. So here we have another interaction of tercio rhythms, but this time with elastic tercio rhythms. So this is from Lamotte. In this sense, it seems that if we have Tresillo against 5-beat syncopated rhythm, it seems that we should favor to synchronize, since we have triple meter common or Tresillo rhythm common. So in the second measure here, we could synchronize those second and third beats of the Tresillo rhythm, so that they would synchronize, or we could choose to misalign these according to taste. So applying the method with the next slide. So converting to Cinquillo, coordinating Tresillos, and relaxing the second and fourth notes. Now, if we look at this within context, measure 42 also has the same rhythm. So the passage we just looked at and then 2 measures after it have the same rhythm. To misalign those third and fifth notes. Yeah, so in that example with 5-beat syncopated rhythm against Tresillo, to favor synchronization, but to still have the option to misalign those third and fifth beats. Just some more information about the composer of that piece, Lamotte. Excuse me. Lamotte composed mostly for the piano, with slow waltzes and Spanish waltzes, and had private salons for his friends on Sunday afternoons. So people or scholars use the term tropical romanticism to describe his music. So this is what I spoke about before, about combining the European salon styles with these Tresillo-based rhythms. So that's a combination, or creolization you could call it, but here calling it tropical romanticism. His Carnival Meringue Nebo won a prize in the 1934 Carnival celebration, and the composer David Bontemps composed a set of variations for it. For the next example, I would like to look at another meringue populaire. This is Meringue Populaire number 5 by Justin Ellie. And in this example, the apex of the phrase, or the arrival point of the phrase, the high point of the phrase, occurs in the middle of the measure, actually just before, with that second beat of Tresillo, or 5-beat syncopated rhythm number 3. And if you'll see, it appears that these beats align. And what I've been talking about before, we could have the option to misalign these notes, but since this high point it indicates the arrival point of the phrase, I think that you should prefer to synchronize this note. Otherwise, the arrival point gets tilted a little bit. So it's not as powerful of an arrival point if we misalign those notes. So looking at that passage. measure. So it sounds better to me to synchronize rather than to cross the third and fifth notes. So it actually helps to reinforce the habanera rhythm to synchronize. So in that example, it seems that the driving rhythm of the habanera is better if we synchronize those notes, it reinforces the habanera rhythm. Now, as another example from Monton's Chaconne, we have lyrics in this piece. So in this sense, the Chaconne, which is known as Yellowbird, that the speech rhythms of the lyrics should dictate the speech, the melodic rhythms. So if you were to sing this piece, or if you know Haitian Creole, probably if you were able to sing along with it, you could allow the singing rhythms of language to dictate the melodic rhythms. So here, we're applying the conversion method again with this piece. And then to look at the first phrase of this piece, this is actually one of the first meringues ever published in Haiti from 1893, and this is a facsimile edition from 2015. So just looking at that first phrase in different ways, we can actually try it to try to mix and match with the synchronization and the misalignment. So trying the first way with synchronization. So now misaligning the third and fifth notes. Mix and match, maybe to cross third beat and to synchronize fifth note. So to me, when you synchronize, you help to reinforce the rhythmic drive, if you want to call it the body rhythm, whereas if you if you misalign, you allow the melody to be heard and to drive more, to allow the melody to fluctuate more. So to me, using the speech and body rhythms, if you synchronize, you allow the body rhythm to drive, whereas the misalignment allows the speech rhythms to fluctuate with rubato treatment. Just some information about Monton. Monton was born in New Orleans and was one of the first meringue composers, and his Chaconne piece was first performed in Paris in 1901. Now for the final example, I would like to look at a piece by Edmond Saintonge. This is Prelude Meringue, and in this piece he actually combines cantillet with cinquillo rhythms. So you have an interaction of both cinquillo and cantillet. So here it's questionable of how to play those third and fifth notes, whether or not to synchronize or to misalign. So to me, just according to taste, I've played both ways, and I believe that it sounds better to mix, because if you misalign every third and fifth note, it tends to sound repetitive. But as another sense, you want to give contrast to the Senkio rhythms. So that's why I suggest to mix and match with the misalignment and synchronizations. So with this passage, seems that he mixed the Senkio with the cantillet. So he wants that the cross rhythms with the second and fourth notes. So that's pretty sure that those second and fourth notes need to have lots of fluctuation, but it's the third and the fifth notes that are questionable whether or not to synchronize or cross those. So that's why I'm saying that's according to taste to misalign or cross those, and to try them out yourself if you're playing this, and to decide which one sounds better to you. So just some background information about Edmond Santonge. He was actually a pharmacist, a doctor, a musician, and a journalist. He was abandoned by his parents at the age of 8, and his neighbors, 2 sisters, adopted him and moved him to France to educate him. And when he was 17, he moved back to Haiti to enroll in the pharmacy school. So he was known for his elaborate concert meringues, rhapsodic innovations. So this prelude meringue, it's a prelude, but it's a very big piece with as a rhapsody with 6 or 7 different sections of different characters. So so a lot of his pieces have a larger forms of the rhapsody, and he was also able to bring nobility to the meringue genre. So just to summarize the performance practice for the relaxed 5-beat syncopated rhythm, just from my dissertation research I presented to you today, I believe that with the 5-beat syncopated rhythm, that beats 2 and 4 should have freedom to fluctuate, since those are the secondary notes added to the tercia rhythm. Those should have freedom to fluctuate, especially with the slower tempos, as in the meringue, allows more fluctuation or rubato treatment. With the 5-beat syncopated rhythms, beats 3 and 5, those were the questionable beats because they misalign and synchronize. They can synchronize, but it seems that they can go either way to synchronize or misalign according to taste. So that if you misalign, allows the higher melody. So the melody would be normally is in the higher frequency. So that higher frequency will be better heard if it's not synchronized. Excuse me. But it also, misalignment allows the melody to lead and to fluctuate. It gives it more freedom to fluctuate. And then with the first beat, I'm suggesting to synchronize that, since that's the beat that both duple and triple meters share. So all these additions were retrieved from the SRDMH archive in Montreal. So with this, with these additions provided in the past 10 years, that's made this research possible, and they are continuing to expose more of this Haitian classical music that has not been seen before. So a lot of these rhythmic notations have never been seen by the public or outside of Haiti, and now these editions are able to provide excuse me, a lot of this music that goes back to as far as 1880. Claude Dauphin is the co-founder and musicologist, and I was able to visit him, and he showed me the different manuscripts in the archive. He has a book about the Haitian style of music, 2014, and Robert Grenier is the editor of these editions, and he was a former opera singer in Paris. So you can purchase these editions by going to srdmh.com excuse me, and clicking on the catalog, if you'll see in the picture. So you can access the catalog and send them an email if you would like to purchase any of these compositions. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And here are my references. I have a couple of references just to show you, two slides for references. So I thank you a lot for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.